Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to give this talk today. And today I'm going to present a CDER perspective on continuous manufacturing. So the first things I need to say is that continuous manufacturing is not just for innovator company. It's definitely applicable for generic industry. And I would even point out that continuous manufacturing is not really a new concept. It has been extensively used in chemical industry. However, this type of manufacturing technology has not been widely adopted for the pharmaceutical manufacturing. But we all know that it has a huge potential to improve efficiency, flexibility, agility, and robustness of pharmaceutical manufacturing processes. Let me just give you an example. Continuous manufacturing may offer shorter processing time due to the absence of intermediates, utilize much smaller equipment, resulting in a reduced environmental footprint, and more importantly, permit increasing production volume without the current bottleneck related to the scale-up issue related to batch manufacturing. In addition, this type of technology can also give a really good opportunity for you to utilize more engineering type process control and monitoring, which really facilitate the real-time release testing, which meaning that you don't really need to do the end product testing before you release the batch. Think about this. This really helps you to get your product to the market much faster. For these reasons, we FDA believe that continuous manufacturing really a promising technology, and the adoption of this manufacturing technology will really beneficial to both patients as well as the industry, including the generic industry. In order to facilitate the adoption of the innovative technology such as continuous manufacturing, not just for the new drug, but as well as for the generic drug, we established the so-called Emerging Technology Program. And the objective and the vision of this program is really to create a centralized, collaborative, and focused platform within FDA as well as between FDA and industry. So we can really work together really early and to bring the promising technology forward. And this program is led by a small cross-functional emerging technology team with representation from all relevant FDA quality review and inspection program, including Office of Pharmaceutical Quality, where I'm coming from, and Office of Regulatory Affairs, which are responsible for a lot of inspection, as well as Office of Compliance from the CDER. And I'm the chair for this program, and I want to point out that all emerging technology team members, ETT members, has extensive industry and review as well as inspection experience. We believe that this type of experience is very important because they are expected to work very closely with our reviewer, investigator, as well as industry, because we want to make sure we provide a consistent recommendation to you guys from before the submission all the ways to the application approval. And we also have the ability to recruit subject matter expert from other, from OPQ as well as from other relevant FDA office as needed. And this program has several objectives and functions. First, ETT, Emerging Technology Team, I call ETT, serve as a centralized location for all external inquiry on novel technology by providing an opportunity to the sponsor to have an early dialogue or scientific discussion with ETT and possibly relevant review and inspection teams. ETT also ensure consistency, continuity, and predictability in review and inspection by having an ETT member to engage with the company from pre-submission all the ways to the application approval. And ETT also help to identify and evaluate potential roadblocks related to existing guidance, policy, or practice, because we understand emerging technology always have new things. I think we really need to look at our policy and guidance together to make sure we are not just following our own practice to prevent the new technology come forward. We also help to establish scientific standards, guidance, and policy as needed. We engage international regulatory agencies to share our learnings and approaches on emerging technologies, such as our PMDA on the continuous manufacturing, as part of the effort to promote global harmonization on the scientific approach in evaluating this type of emerging technology, such as continuous manufacturing. We will definitely facilitate knowledge transfer to relevant CDER and ORA review and inspection program, because when the emerging technology becomes mature, because this team is really trying to create a precedent. And then once we have enough knowledge on this type of new technology within the FDA, the responsibility will go back to the review division. And since the launch of this program, we have already accepted 30 requests into this emerging technology program. I also want to point out that we have guidance on this program. So if you have any question, please do go to look at this guidance. And these 3 requests resulted in more than 60 ETT industry interactions, including face-to-face meeting and TCON. And more than 50% of these interactions are related to continuous manufacturing. And under this program, we have successfully approved 4 new drug applications and 1 new drug supplement for utilizing continuous manufacturing for drug product manufacturing. And I would want to point out that all these reviews were reviewed under accelerated timeline and approved way ahead of the user fee timeframe. And we are currently also discussed with several generic companies because they are also interested in implementing this type of technology, especially in the API side. And over the last couple of years, under this emerging technology program, we have, I can say, we have significant experience in continuous manufacturing on drug product manufacturing, especially immediate release solid oral dosage forms. We also have experience on continuous manufacturing for drug substance, end-to-end continuous manufacturing processes, pharmacy on demand, continuous downstream bioprocessing. And I want to tell you, this is not something fancy. Right now, the company actually really look at this innovative technology, try to implement for the commercial production. In addition, we see that the control strategies also is evolving with the emergence of continuous manufacturing. Specifically, we have started to see the increasing use of advanced process control and automation system, PAT tools, real-time release testing, and process models for process monitoring, control, and product release. So I think this is really become a reality. And this slide summarizes the key continuous manufacturing areas that we have frequently discussed with our industry partners, including the generic industry. These areas include control strategy, facility and process validation, batch and notch definition. I will elaborate this a little bit more to ensure that batch definition is not a regulatory hurdle for continuous manufacturing. and also comparability data for switching from batch processing to continuous manufacturing processing. And then in the next couple slides, I will discuss some considerations of these, some key considerations of these areas. In general, the control strategy should be designed for each product and each process based on the risk to the product quality. And in this context, the control strategy for continuous manufacturing should be designed to mitigate the product quality risk in response to transient disturbances or variations over time. As we recognize that continuous manufacturing is actually a dynamic process with fluctuation around the target values as opposed to a truly steady state process. Our regulatory assessment focuses on a holistic approach that can be used to ensure product quality during the continuous operation. Therefore, as you can see here, the manufacturers actually have a lot of freedom to use any combination of the methods listed in the second bullet point here for their control strategy, as long as they can justify the sufficiency of their proposed control strategy in ensuring product quality during the continuous operation. Nevertheless, based on our current experience, the unique dynamic aspect of continuous manufacturing do promote the adoption of the level 1 control as indicated in this diagram here, which is active and closed loop control. However, in some cases, like the hybrid approach, combining the different levels of controls as indicated in this diagram here as control level number 1 and level number 2 may be a viable option for some continuous manufacturing. So as I can tell you that there's a lot of different ways to incorporate the continuous manufacturing. You don't need to have to use the most advanced approach. As long as your approach is fit for purpose, we will be okay with it. And there are several key aspects of material control for continuous manufacturing. First, we need to establish good traceability of different batches of raw material, including the APIs and excipients, to final products. As we know that the continuous manufacturing can really operate for an extended period of time that involve the use of different batches of raw materials. Second, the material properties should be carefully characterized and understand with respect to their impact on the formulation flow properties in order for us to develop a relatively stable and robust continuous manufacturing process under the open loop setting. And third, such understanding on the material properties should be used to establish the material specification. For example, we really need to understand how much large to large variation on the material properties the continuous manufacturing process can take and still able to produce consistent quality products. For legacy products, the material specification should be re-evaluated in the context of continuous manufacturing. And from process monitoring and control perspective, it is important to specify the role of the PAT tools in the overall control strategy, as well as look at or evaluate the instrument aspect that may impact the detectability of the PAT tools in monitoring process performance and product quality. Let me just give you one example. Feeding is really a critical process or operation for continuous manufacturing because everything depends on how you feed the material. And therefore, the flow rate should be carefully monitored to allow us to assess and detect the impact on product quality from operational variations, such as switching from gravimetric to volumetric mode during the refill of the materials in the feeder, as well as the variability of the feeding of the materials, especially for those materials presented at the low level in the formulation, because this type of a thing is very difficult to feed, especially the excipient at the very low level in the formulation. And this is very interesting. The process and the control strategy, in principle, should be designed to minimize the risk of producing non-conforming material. However, there are always some potential of unknown disturbances that may be encountered during the continuous operation for continuous manufacturing. So I would like to point out that the ability to detect, trace, and isolate, as well as remove the non-conforming material in continuous manufacturing can be part of control strategy. However, in order to do so, it is important we understand and evaluate how disturbances propagate throughout the entire system in order to determine the amount of material being affected. There are many ways to do it, and one way is to use process model to have an ability to trace the non-conforming material due to upstream disturbances. So this is a very new concept, because remember, when in the batch manufacturing, if something is wrong, you basically need to throw out the entire batch. But in continuous manufacturing, as long as you have a technology to monitor the material quality in the real time, in most cases, you can actually isolate those material and then do an investigation, and you don't need to throw out the whole batch. But of course, we don't want you to do it all the time, because this will indicate your process is not robust enough from CGMP perspective. And if the process model is used for material diversion, there are several key considerations you will need to take into consideration. First, the model definitely should be developed by using scientifically sound principles and conditions that really reflect the routine commercial production. Second, there should be data to demonstrate the ability of the models to trace, identify non-conforming material throughout the system to the rejection point. Third, it is very important to understand the model assumption and the risk, including the model parameter uncertainty, variability in material properties and process parameters, and potential risk that may not be included during the model development and validation. And finally, model maintenance is really should be included as a part of the control strategy and within the pharmaceutical quality system as part of the life cycle exercise in order to support continuous performance verification. And as I mentioned earlier, because we use a lot of high density measurements, and continuous manufacturing actually provide a great opportunity for you to use real-time release testing. And for real-time release testing, the key is really to establish the final product quality to the upstream controls, such as controls of incoming and in-process raw material attributes, process parameters, or any combination of these two types of control. And if you use the PAT tools to support the real-time release testing, it is very important to, let me go back a little bit. The sampling scheme should be evaluated for its ability to detect non-conforming materials. For example, the sampling scheme, including the frequency of the measurements for determining the quality of a batch, detecting disturbances during the continuous operation, or determining whether the continuous manufacturing process is in the state of control during the startup process can be different. In addition, it is very important to have a backup plan in case your PAT tool is not working. So this is something you also definitely need to consider. And this slide pretty much shows that the regulatory definitions for batch and knobs. I would like to emphasize that these regulatory definitions are applicable for continuous manufacturing, and we should not be and do not really impose any regulatory hurdles for the implementation of continuous manufacturing. And there's certainly flexibility for defining the size of a batch for continuous manufacturing, whether based on a range of processing times, the amount of materials produced, and different batch of raw materials. The general expectation is that regardless what batch definition is used, the control strategy needs to establish to be capable of detecting uniform quality during the continuous operation, as well as the material traceability has to be established in relation to the proposed control strategy. And here, I just want to briefly go through that. The process validation is no different from the recommendation we provided in our current FDA draft guidance. And one thing I do want to point out that currently, we would like to see the proposed, during the process validation, the proposed continuous manufacturing process runs for the duration representative for the commercial, representative of the commercial production runtime. And we will also consider using the comparability protocol for the sponsor to extend their batch size, to increase their batch size. For example, extending the runtime during the post-approval stage. And in our facility consideration, we assess the ability of the facility, and more importantly, its pharmaceutical quality systems to implement and oversee continuous manufacturing, and more importantly, manage the changes and continuous improvement over the product life cycle. For example, we will look at how the non-conforming materials are handled within the PQS. We will look at the validation activities to ensure the robustness of continuous manufacturing process, including the ability to remain in the state of control and make real-time quality decisions. And we will also look at examining the equipment's qualification and maintenance, including the cleaning procedure, as well as raw material control. As you know, we recently published the draft FDA guidance on the continuous manufacturing with focus on the solid oral dosage form. If you have time, I definitely encourage you to look at it. And this guidance is applicable for generic products as well as for the innovative products. And then with this, I would like to conclude my presentation, and by just saying that we believe that the development and the implementation of the emerging technology, such as continuous manufacturing, will really help us to get to the desired state, which is maximally efficient, agile, flexible pharmaceutical manufacturing sector that can really reliably produce high-quality drugs without extensive regulatory oversight. Because we don't want to you to submit all the like supplements or things after the approval. We really want you to be able to manage your own manufacturing system by using your PQS. And with this, I would like to conclude my presentation and thank you for your attention.